Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is the Managed Comics Thought Stream for Thursday, December 16th. We didn't so much have a Thought Stream last week. That's actually a garbage one. But I kind of did an impromptu thing last minute. But as we do every week, let's hear who's here. Shout it out in the comments if you're here. And I'll say a quick hi to you and I'll guess your store. And I've got a 77.8% chance of getting it right. So yeah, if you're here, give me a shout out in the comments and we'll talk. Oh, it's Julian from BD Cosmos. How you doing, sir? I look at my shelves behind, and I think over the Christmas break, I'm fixing that one that is sagging because it's driving me crazy. Max, we're going to talk about you today. We're actually going to share your video that I just spent some time editing. And Craig Oliphant, hey Craig, check it out. New Managed Comics swag. We'll talk about this later. Oh my gosh, my mic is dropping here. What is going on? Sometimes if I get it kind of too far over the fulcrum point, it drops. So yeah, I got to spend a little bit of time today doing something I don't get to do a lot, and that's edit video. So in a former life, I worked at TSN, the sports network here up in Canada. Hey, it's Adam from Black Dragon Comics. And when I worked at the sports network, I did a ton of video editing. I edited Soccer Saturday every Saturday. And so I'd actually edit on Friday. And I did a lot of like sports highlights and stuff like that. So yeah, getting a chance to do some editing is my favorite. I swear, I'm just catching it out of the corner of my eye, but I swear it's still falling down. Is it still falling down? I feel like I do this every week. Every week I tighten up this one thing. This is a Blue Yeti mic, and they are great mics, but they're heavy as, like, this thing I think weighs about 1.5 pounds, especially with the shock mount on it. So it tends to succumb to gravity every now and then. Anyway, getting right to it, I think what we'll start out with is we'll talk a little bit about our dev work that we've done lately. We've really focused this week on GeekFetch and updating our data. So our data now is much better in terms of new release and FOC stuff. We just found that everything is changing so frequently that we've had to create a couple of new little hooks into our data to update those two specific things. And then I actually got a really good recommendation from a customer that I'm going to save for later because I really like it. I need to kind of flesh out how it's going to work exactly, but I think it makes a ton of sense. Then on top of that, we've been kind of specking out some of our bigger projects. And one of those is going to be really fleshing out the initial orders and the new release, initial orders and FOCs, making that bigger. The other one that we're focusing on quite a bit is the POS integration. And we want to make our tiles more useful on the point of sale side, and also kind of make them do some specific things. So the two things that are most important when it's customers at the cash register, obviously, are editing your lists and taking an order that exists in Managed Comics and making it available for the POS. So those are the two things we'll be focusing on with our tile. That's basically all it's going to do. Though, if you need to get into everything else, you can kind of click in and go, but most of those screens aren't iPad optimized. So we recommend that you use, a browser of some sort until we can get through there and really firm those things up. The problem is we use Shopify's Polaris system, which isn't really great on a tablet, to be totally honest. So yeah, that's a limitation of the platform. But yeah, I'm really, really happy with kind of the progress we've made. We're up to, I think we just hit 40 stores last night on the new platform. I'm going to be creating an entire onboarding system that we will use to get people on. I tried to do mass onboardings last week, and honestly, they were just overwhelming. I think both for the people that were being onboarded and for me. So I think a better way to do it will be to create an online onboarding system where every single person kind of hits a different point. And then if you need me, we're going to reintroduce our live chat. So if you need somebody to get in, you'd be able to contact somebody immediately and get us to get involved with your onboarding at that point. Without further ado, to this week is really about a couple of our initial beta testers. We had, I think, initially about a half dozen stores that started using us. Two of our stores very quickly became kind of integral development partners. So Max from Shoebox Comics and Miranda and Sam from Dreamers and Make Believers have been huge advocates in helping us kind of figure out things we need to streamline, what doesn't make sense, what makes sense, and really helping us fine tune the program. And so I want to thank those guys. And I think the best way to do that is to share a couple little videos. And in the first one, Max and I talked for about 40 minutes, I think. This one's about 15 minutes long. We go into some new developments that I had created that we had kind of added recently at one point, and I think it was kind of fun to watch those things as well. And then we talk a lot about his shop and what's happening with him, and then I'll come back and we'll chat a little bit, and then I'm going to jump into to a testimonial with Sam from Dreamers and Make Believers, and they did some cool stuff as well. So let's get right into this. What I'm going to talk about today in our Thoughtstream is like the process of onboarding a store and the process of onboarding customers. And you were kind of one of the earlier stores that we onboarded. And the nice thing is you're technically savvy enough to get in there and kind of change things. When we first onboarded, do you remember any hiccups that you had kind of getting things started?
I think the only hiccups were stuff that was fixed pretty early, as far as like I wasn't taking from an existing system, so
Right.
I was waiting to do pulls until I had managed comics.
Right.
So that was much easier to have the few people who just wanted to kind of test it out with me just get in and get started.
Mm-hmm.
I remember a few small things, like old series that hadn't that had been pushed back so far that
Like Saga.
like one of them was Decorum, I think.
Right.
One of the subscribers wanted Decorum, and that had gotten pushed so far back that we just couldn't set up the pre-order at all. And I think at that time the pre-orders and subscriptions were split into two separate columns, two separate pages. So I think since then it's gotten a lot simpler to add stuff like that.
Now I think we had some problems with your theme in the very beginning, but we fixed those fairly quickly.
Right. Yeah. It wasn't wrapping properly, if I remember
right.
Yeah. And the width of things were I'm just pulling up. Yeah, they were all over the place. But that you came in and that was a relatively simple fix, I think.
I went from just kind of letting people install it themselves to kind of walking them through. So I think what we ended up doing is we put this inside of your actual frame, which made things look a little bit better. Because by default, Managed Comics kind of dumps everything outside of the frame.
Yeah.
Because every frame is different, right? Like you never know what the code is going to be that it's going to need to put it inside of the frame.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of like onboarding new customers, how do you go about doing that? Like how do you kind of solicit new customers, and how are you getting them to set themselves up?
I'd like to encourage people, like if they're ordering stuff in the future, to just go through pre-orders and then set them up with an account like that. I'm still finding that most of the people who are ordering stuff will want to order it's like a bunch of back issue books at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And that unfortunately is easier just to create a separate order and just manually do it myself.
Right.
As far as subscription stuff, just getting people to like the easiest way I've explained it to people is by browsing by FOC and just go week by week. And that also takes some explaining about what FOC is to somebody who doesn't know. Cause like I'm mainly trying to convince people who have never had a pull anywhere. and don't know what they're looking at. So explaining FOC, and I think that is the easiest way for people to just kind of like, I don't know, wrap their head around it. The few people I have had sign up are like they've had polls before, so they know what they're doing, they know what they're looking for. Like
Sure.
one in particular, Dylan is, I mean, he knows exactly what he's looking for. Like he knows more about it than I do, right? So
Right.
he's on top of all of it with when stuff is hitting FOC and when he has to order by, and he's like way ahead of time on everything, which is great. Yeah, I think browsing by FOC is the easiest, especially even for me. Like when I'm looking through stuff and just adjusting my own list or what I want to order, I'm just browsing by FOC as the default.
That's really interesting. So making sure people understand what the whole concept of an FOC is and what those mean. Yeah, that makes sense. Because by the time browse by release date, by the time the release dates come around, they can't actually subscribe to any of those things anymore. So
right. And I also have definitely found it like challenging, encouraging people. Like a lot of the stuff you order, you won't see for at least a month, maybe a few months, depending on what it is.
Yeah, especially like the variant covers and stuff like that, and how quickly that stuff changes. So
yeah,
by the time those come around, hopefully we've got it figured out. What's been kind of the biggest benefit so far?
I mean, without it, I wouldn't do polls at all. Like
really?
I mean, I could manage it myself with an Excel sheet, and that's kind of the equivalent of what I would do. I set the site up specifically to just be a Shopify thing. I don't have a physical location, and I don't know. It just seemed the most obvious solution to me. And so, yeah, if I didn't use it, I wouldn't do polls at all. I would just do manual pre-orders, and I would just do whatever's new this week. But yeah, I mean that's the biggest benefit, and I just wouldn't do it. And I think there's also, as far as I've looked at, I don't think that there's a better option for the ease of use. And for me, who's still just like, I'm still just a few months in, so I'm still learning the whole process, and I still have questions and everything. But it does break it down very easily to just do initial orders and weekly FOCs. And
it's cool. Are you finding the whole import process of getting like products into your stores, is that working okay for you?
Yeah, it's the only thing that I'd like to see change there is when I am ordering, I'm still ordering a bunch of back stuff. Like whenever I make orders, I'm small enough that I'm just building up my orders to make the shipping worthwhile by ordering a bunch of older stuff. And if I order like, I don't know, Court of Owls or something, I already have the Court of Owls listing in my store, and it will create a new product in the store.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I would love if it just updated the quantity of that. So right now what I'm doing is whenever I have that, I'm just like, I have small enough orders that I can just keep track of it in my head, and I will just go in and manually adjust the quantity and then ignore it on the poll.
That's interesting. So I never really considered that, because if you originally had Court of Owls using a diamond code and then you bring it in using a lunar code, you're right, that's a totally different handle. I honestly never thought of that. I think we can add some logic in that looks at the UPC code, which should be the same throughout all of them. That's so the way handles work is they take the I think it starts out with the SKU, and then it's like the title of the book. So even if the title of the book was slightly different, that would also create a different handle. That's a good piece. I'll make sure I look into that. Cool. And otherwise, everything's going fairly well.
Yeah, I think I talked to you about the graphic novel tax, the 5% tax.
I fixed that. So we've got that solved. So yeah, I'll be sending out an email about that. It really interesting. So there's a kind of, I would call it a flaw in Shopify, that the only way to do that is by creating a manual. You have to create a manual collection, and then you have to tag everything with that manual collection. So we've actually created a a kind of back end setting where you specify what the manual collection is, and then we'll add it to that manual collection as part of it, which has to be
Cool.
its own kind of API call afterwards. Pain in the butt. I mean, the way Shopify should do this is you should be able to tax exempt a collection, and it should be an automatic collection, because graphic novel is a graphic novel. I don't understand why they wouldn't.
Is it possible to have a report of just like what is coming out that week that's on your customers' lists even before I do pull?
What do you want to see on that? Do you just want to see like titles and quantities that are?
Yeah. Yeah, that's all I need. It would, for me, it would basically just be a check that that I got everything. Initially, I would have liked to kind of announce like on Monday night or Tuesday night, like this is what you should expect from us this week. You'll get a follow-up email with the invoice.
Right.
But I actually think the invoice works pretty well, especially now that the invoice groups into one. That's awesome. Like that works really well.
That's another thing we're changing this week is the ability for you. So all the polls will happen, and then you'll get a it'll creates a customer orders list, and then you can go through and actually I'll show you my screen so you can see it. Heck, I'll go ahead and do a poll and just show you what happens.
Yeah, sure.
So we've changed polls to check in.
Nice.
And so now I'm checking in all these books, and we'll just assume that I actually got this amount of stuff. I don't know if you've seen this before, but if there's anything extra, you can add it here.
Yeah, since I've been doing my poll with a lot of like not backordered, just older titles. I've done this a lot. I've filled out a lot of these.
So we're going to add the ability for you to search by UPC or ISBN and then fill it in if we have it. Cool. Chances are we have it. What we're finding is like just the code is different.
Right.
And so this would save that. And then it won't duplicate stuff on our this only begotten son number 5. It keeps on, even though I've like created it 5 times. So you create a product tag here. So let's say new release. Actually, I'll just say 2021 01 01. So that's going to be my new releases for this week. This is just the standard kind of confirmation thing. Mm-hmm. Confirm pull. So I got a couple people, Don Blake and Brian Garside, have some stuff. So now when I go to my customers and I go to customer orders, so basically based on what your customer's shipping type is.
That's great. That's a really good function.
So all the guys that you can do, you know, your weeklies, and then every other week you can look and see all the people you need to invoice. And then that will create the invoice at that point.
Excellent. Yeah, I like that.
The other thing it does is when it creates the invoice, it actually goes through and creates all the products for it. So now you'll be tracking the products in.
Nice.
So if for whatever reason the product didn't get created, now it'll get created and get tracked, and we'll see Barry here.
Does it add it? So it does add it to Shopify as a new product?
It does, and then it reserves the quantity.
Okay.
So yeah.
But if I wanted to, okay.
Yeah, and so now it's going to calculate the taxes properly. And that's the other thing I'll show you is product types. This is where we add the collection. So I'm not going to say that. So like for graphic novels, I say it's books 5%.
Nice.
And then that will get taxed properly now.
Cool. And the so setting the customer pickups, whether they're weekly, bi-weekly, or local delivery, is that do they set that, or do I set those for people?
So they will be able to, but right now that is in the customer setting. It's kind of crappy. You have to go over. So it's one of the customer settings here.
Cool.
And then we're going to have that on the front end too. The guys just missed that story when we did all the other stuff. So they're working on that right now.
Cool. Is
So the other cool
is book-
thing with check-in, let's say that you get something in, but you don't have a book for it or
Mhm.
for an invoice for it, you can plug in the diamond code or the ISBN or UPC or even just the title.
That's nice. That I haven't had a situation where I've needed that, but I know I will in the future. So that's good.
Yeah. So that makes it nice and quick. There's the ability, you have the ability to like not show stuff until a certain date.
Mm-hmm.
But if we set that through the API, it's visible immediately, even though we've set the date as the future.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're doing is we're actually creating the product. So let's say that you do your pulls on Monday, but the products can't be available in your store until Wednesday. We create all the products, but we set them as inactive. And then we shoot a request out at like midnight on Wednesday that says, make all these products active now. So
Nice.
one of the steps is like, when will these products be active? They can be active immediately or in the future. Because if you're
That's
pulling
great.
in like reorder stuff, you're going to want to make it active immediately. If it's otherwise, you'll do it in the future.
No, that's awesome because I, especially with like Penguin, has been pretty good about shipping stuff well ahead of time, and I'd
Yeah.
like to be able to process it immediately.
Yeah.
But I wait until Wednesdays for everything. So that's great. Yeah. I
Yeah,
like
and
that a
that
lot.
should make the invoice process a little bit better too, so that when you get the stuff on Monday, you can create all your pulls and everything and then invoice on Wednesday morning,
Nice.
not
Yeah,
break any
that's
street
great.
dates or anything. Cool. Yeah, like I said, if you ever have any questions or anything, please just send me an email at help. I'm happy to answer them. And usually the thing is that if you're having those problems, other people are. So it's
Yeah.
like, until I hear about them, I don't know about them. And then I
gotcha.
usually end up solving it for a dozen people at once,
Yep.
which is really nice. Oh, I'm muted. I shouldn't be muted. So I'm back. Yeah, that was Max. So thanks so much to Max for his time. I love that. We went through a couple of things that I think were kind of cool during that whole little video time. I also talked to Sam from Dreamers and Make Believers, and we talked a little bit more about kind of what his process for getting people in was, and we talked a lot about his store. They'll be opening up their shop in January, I think, sometime in January. Sorry, this May. I'm hoping it doesn't just automatically start playing. And it's not going to automatically play, is it? Oh, it is. Sorry. Oh, I didn't know that I can add multiple videos to the stream. Isn't that interesting? That's very cool. I'll know that for the future. So yeah, we talked to Sam from Dreamers and Make Believers. They've been running, so they've been kind of working on a store. They had a location. That location turned out they couldn't get their occupancy permit for it. So they kind of changed to another location. But the good news is their new location will be twice as big as what the old location would have been. Yeah, so it's really exciting times for them. I'm going to talk about them. In the meantime, before we start talking about that, Julian in the chat mentioned I wonder if I share my screen. Yes, but I'm going to want to share this window. We're gonna kind of inception this for a second. Oh no, I've caused problems. Oh, that could have been bad. Let me share a different screen. Good thing that technology is my profession, eh? So in the chat, Julian was just mentioning that there's a point of sale system out there called Connect Retail. And this POS system is, let me just pop up Julian's comment here. And he said, if anyone cares, I'm looking to book a meeting with these fine folks for their point of sale system, which does pull draft orders. So yeah, it's I just took a quick look at it. It's a point of sale system that works on desktop, Android, and iOS. Pricing seems reasonable. I mean, it's comparable to Shopify's point of sale. If you're working at the $49 level, you can also do things like draft orders. If you're going $79, you're going to have partial payments and second screen and stuff like that. Very interesting. I will actually reach out to these guys and see if we can get a demo, and maybe I'll do a demo kind of offline and share it with y'all online. So thanks to that, Julian. If anybody ever finds something that the group would be interested in, let me know at help@managecomics.com. I know Julian mentioned this a while ago, and that's how I kind of knew about it. So Julian says I'm looking at the $49 level, and that looks great because it will support draft orders. I'd be interested in seeing whether or not how we can kind of integrate with them. We're actually in the process of creating our own tile stuff that will show up on the point of sale for Shopify. So working on getting these guys would be great. All right, let's go. Let me unshare my screen there. And let's talk to Sam from Dreamers and Make Believers. Guys, while I'm off and you're watching this video, if you've got any questions, start thinking about them now, and we'll talk about them when I get back. So you guys started your store in when did you start your store?
I want to say we opened with you May of 2021. I think that's
Yeah, that sounds
when
about
we
right,
went
eh?
live.
And I can't remember when you guys first started. Did you started out with Classic, right? Until September, I
Yes.
think. Yeah.
Yep. We started out with Classic till beta launched.
Yeah. You guys were literally our first beta client, and you've gone through all of the pain. Is it getting a little more stable at least?
It is getting much more stable. Yes.
That's good. You guys started in May. You moved
Yep.
over from Classic to 2.0, and I think you just did all that manually because it was pre us having imports and stuff like that.
And we also only had 3 customers.
Yeah, well, that probably helped too, right? So yeah, you guys are like a brand new kind of store, and
Yep.
you're starting out from scratch in Baltimore, and then you guys have been. You were like the first dudes to get on Shopify and really start. You were doing pop-ups and things like that all through the summer. I know you got like is it a Wednesday beer?
So yeah,
store?
every Wednesday we have a new comic book day and new craft beer day.
That's the best combination in the world.
That's why it's the NCBD day.
That's that's awesome. And then are you guys doing like I imagine this time of the year you're doing like a bunch of kind of Christmas events and stuff like that too?
Yeah, we are doing anywhere from 3 to 4 a week of Christmas
Nice.
events.
That's amazing. You've been managing that stuff through, and then you guys have been really, really fundamental in kind of building a lot of our product database for non-comic stuff, books and things like that. How's that been going for you guys?
It's been going well. There are definitely some growing pains with it, and some data points that probably need to be added and addressed.
Okay.
But other than that, it's been, a lot of the stuff in terms of book products that aren't in there, unless it's something that I can easily build, we actually just build manually.
Okay.
Because it's easier that way than basically doing it in Manage Comics and then having to change it to adapt to our website and our filters.
Right.
So instead of building it twice, we just build it once.
Well, that's a good thing. So your filters are different than our filters?
Yeah, because we have items like we've got manga and we have prose instead of novels, or
Okay.
illustrated prose, and then picture books and stuff like that, which because Diamond is very comic heavy, they sort of ignore all of those. And I mean,
Right.
they even ignore manga and just put manga under graphic novels or novels,
Yeah.
which is frustrating.
Yeah. Are you guys using like a standard, like what is it, Bink? Is that the book standard?
We just sort of fit it into whatever categories we want.
Okay.
And whatever categories sort of make sense. So like a lot of reference books and will go under illustrated prose, or like a lot of kids chapter books that have a lot of illustrations, and then we'll go under illustrated prose. And then obviously like our kids picture books will just go under kid picture books, or
Sure.
board books go under board books.
Cool. because yeah, for sure we could do some stuff to kind of massage some of the categories. Manga is a big one. I think we need to basically create it as its own thing, which we could do because we would just take right now they have a genre, so we just flip the genre into a category, which would make more
Right.
sense anyway. So yeah,
Which I mean, and
I think we should
not
probably
even
do.
all manga is hit under the manga genre, because some of it's under Yuri or Isekai manga. And so Diamond's data is just all over the place in
Yeah.
terms of the manga data.
Yeah, we could definitely figure something out. One of the nice things about Penguin Random House, I've been looking at all their stuff, and like all the like the categorization is crazy. So figuring out how we can kind of bubble that back up to our Diamond stuff should be interesting, because they use the actual book like
Right.
categorization, which is so deep. Mind you, it has a little bit of the opposite problem where like graphic novels have one category in
Yep.
in the book publishing trade. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's funny. How many subscribers you guys at now?
We are at let's see, where's the all customers? I apologize if my cat walks in front of the camera.
You know the rule, right? Whenever an animal comes into the picture, you have to introduce the animal. That's a rule.
Yep, there he is. This is Jack, the Dreamers and Make Believers cat mascot.
Hello, Jack.
Let's see, we've got 12 now.
Well, that's wild. That's very cool. So your new store's opening sometime in January.
Yeah.
And whereabouts are you guys
Yeah.
going to be?
We are going to be in Highlandtown, which is one of the recognized national Main Street districts, which is also an art district here in Baltimore. So yeah, we also will have an artist in residence. We'll have a very awesome comic themed mural on the outside of the building. Yeah, we've got 3,000 square feet of space, and we'll have some pinball games, and it's going to be just a epic store.
That sounds awesome. That's very exciting. So yeah, January 2022, Baltimore Dreamers and Make Believers. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time. Thanks so much for talking to me.
Yeah, of course.
Like, if you've got any problems, let me know and I'll take a look at them. I always forget to unmute my mic when we come back. So we are back. Yeah, that was Sam from Dreamers and Make Believers. Like I said, he was the very, very first. He and his partner Miranda were the very first store to use Managed Comics 2.0. We migrated them from Classic over. We didn't do any migration or anything like that, which we've been working on for the last little while. Our migration path is actually really nice now. I'm really, really happy with it. Running into a couple little problems with folks, because one of the things I didn't really account for is that in the old Classic system, some people create special orders for things that aren't actual like Diamond or PRH or Lunar codes. They're just like, I want a copy of Spawn number 9. Oh, okay. Didn't really consider that. So yeah, we've got to figure out how to deal with those things and not lose those, obviously, as we go between the two systems. But the idea is that once you kind of switch over to 2.0, we do a redirect on your 1.0 site, and it flips it. So when a customer goes, Managed Comics / example shop, if they type that into the browser or they have a bookmark or whatever, it goes to exampleshop.com / your subscriptions page. And so it looks relatively the same because they're getting kind of a Managed Comics feel, if you will. So they'll still see the banner at the top and all that stuff, but they're in your website. So it's a different world, and I think it's a nicer world, to be honest with you. I'm going to real quick talk about kind of the things that we did over the last couple of weeks. So let me share this screen. I'm going to pop my little head down in the corner. That's awesome. So we added this new feature to Manage Comics Help. If you ever go to Manage Comics Help, you'll see, so help.managecomics.com, or from the website you go, Manage Comics, and there's a help navigation in the top, and that gives you, actually, let me just bring it up now. So it brings up kind of two options. You can either get classic, which is old robot, or new robot. Subscribotron will take you through to the Manage Comics 2 help. So if you have anything that you're looking for kind of a quick reference on, this is where it all is. If you are on here and you go under apps and features, app features and settings, the very first thing will let you download our guide. Our guide is 77 pages. I update it frequently. So this guide, this URL just stays the same, but the guide gets updated like as soon as we make changes. Anything that I add to this guide also gets added to the knowledge base. So we're constantly updating both of them. Our changelog. So I developed this last week. It's just a nice little thing that talks about all the things we changed. So for example, Manage Comics now uses products. So we actually create products for all of the pulls that get done. We push invoices after the pulls are created. We create Shopify products for orders for all items. We changed the check-in from pulls to check-in because you may be checking something in on a Thursday or a Tuesday or a Saturday. If you get one single shipment, you may want to check that in and do something with it. So we changed that for sure. When you get started, it's still kind of the same process. Now, instead, you'll start over. It should just say start. You'll start here. If you want to just find one item, you click on find additional items and you can find a UPC code or a diamond code or a lunar code. Checking in your inventory creates the pulls. At the end of it, now we have a new kind of step, which is create customer orders. And that means, so what was happening with a lot of folks was they were doing, you do your Penguin Random House on, let's say, Monday, because that stuff comes in. And then Tuesday, your lunar shipment comes in, or vice versa. Your lunar shipment comes in Monday, your Penguin Random House comes in Tuesday. You can't sell anything till Wednesday. So this allows you to do your pulls in sequence and then kind of parse them out as you want to. So if you want to do all your lunar on Monday and then sell them on Tuesday morning when you come in before you do your Penguin Random House order, you can totally do that now. We also changed, there was like a debug code that ended up being really useful. So we actually just kind of merged it into the page, and then we fixed a bunch of bugs. My favorite one was ISBN was messing up sometimes because sometimes the ISBN is correct and sometimes it was not. I'm gonna, Juliana, I'm not forgetting your questions. We'll get to those as soon as I go through the changes from last week. So after we went live with all these changes, which was before we onboarded stores, very quickly we discovered one fatal flaw in our plan, which was you can't reserve a product in Shopify using the reserve feature. So there's a feature in Shopify called reserve, which is supposed to actually save the product so that you can, reserve it, but that doesn't work. So we actually had to change the whole process now. So we duplicate products. So we'll create like Action Comics 1037, and we create Action Comics 1037 bracket subs or subscription. 1037 subscription will never show up on the website, but you can transfer from 1037 subscription to 1037. It's a little bit of a hack. I'm actually raising this up with Shopify because that seems like something that's broken. The concept of a layaway is a concept that's older than time. And the fact that Shopify doesn't support something so fundamental is really weird to me. Customers can set their shipping preferences. So if you only have local pickup, this will only ever say local pickup, and they'll say, I agree. If you also allow people to have things shipped to them, they can say monthly, biweekly, or weekly shipping. on the subscriptions page, they can also change their subscription settings. And the easiest way to kind of make this disappear is just to only have local pickup. If you're only allowing people to get stuff in line, you're good to go. And we also changed the date ranges on reports to default to the previous 7 days. For some reason, we were defaulting to like the previous month, which on the recent pulls was really kind of a pain in the butt. Same with the shortages. Shortages should only show you your most recent shortages. So we fix those things. Right now we are working on Penguin Random House file imports. We had to map a bunch of things from those files. So this is my mapping table. It's really gross. I am in the process today. By the end of the day, I will figure out how to map the Penguin Random House BNC codes to our genre codes. And going forward, I think we may actually flip it at some point and start using BNC codes instead of, and so BNC is the book industry something codes, network codes, maybe. So we're going to kind of move towards those just because they're an industry standard for the book trade. And it actually makes sense most of the time for those codes to be used by us as well. So I'd like to move us more towards it. On the front end, it won't change anything. It would just mean that you guys would have possibly more codes to add as tags and things like that. As a story, I would like some different. So this is actually from Sam from Dreamers and Make Believers. On our new customer orders page, he just was wondering if we could add the number of items and also the ability for those items to be edited on the line. So Bruce Wayne here has 4 comics. Maybe he isn't going to pick up one of them. So we could uncheck that and then still invoice him for the other 3. Or we could actually kick that one back out. He doesn't want it at all. He doesn't want the Peacemaker one shot, which we had pulled for him. So we can kick that back into stock. So that would actually move it into the stock items and remove it from our special pulled subscription items. My dog is like being really weird behind me. Bug, when I add a title via search, I can't pull subscriptions for it. So for some reason, when you add a title by search in the pulls, it becomes unselectable, which is weird. So that's a fairly simple fix from what I've been told. I want to add an item that's not on. So in order to, like, if you want to create an item that isn't currently there, you'll be able to do that. Check in. I want to be able to change the price on certain products. So let's say that you get a 1 in 10 variant. Right now, you have to actually change the price when it's in the shopping cart. Or sorry, not the shopping cart, in Shopify. Want to be able to push that change before it goes to Shopify. So that should be relatively straightforward. Cool little update that I want to do is if you've got a code that we don't find, enter in the UPC or ISBN code, and then we'll search and see if often these are just under another code in the database. Or the good example is like Lunar trades that we have already got in from Diamond, but haven't been able to update the Lunar code because Lunar provides us a list of codes, but not the corresponding UPCs of all the backstock they got from Diamond way back in the day. So yeah, until we can kind of figure that out and create child codes for all Lunar items, we'll use this as a workaround. And the last one is, so the beginning of December, there was a problem with the invoices that came out. There were, Penguin doesn't release an invoice until the books are on sale, are able to be on sale. And then the other problem is if the invoice is in like on the first Wednesday of a month, they can't send an invoice. They can only send the PDR report. So we want to make the ability to use the PDR report as a check-in and then still allow you to upload the invoice later to confirm all the prices, because the PDR report can't have prices because of accounting. And they explained it to me. I understand it. it's what happens when you deal with big companies instead of little companies that haven't been doing this as long as Penguin has been doing books for. So makes sense. It's just this will be a thing to help alleviate that. That's our next little while. What's not on here is the point of sale enhancements that I'm just going through and figuring out exactly how those should work to bring subscriptions into Manage Comics. That's our stuff. Let me unshare my screen. And then I'm going to talk about, Julian says, does 2.0, my dog, does 2.0 have a way for a customer who sub to covers? I have customers who sub to every all you can order covers. So 1.0, in 1.0, we set their quantity to higher than one copy. So we know they want every cover. So yeah, a customer can, and actually let me show you how you do that. You reshare. Let me go into subscriptions. Oh, I gotta sign in. Actually, I hope this is actually me. Yay! It's Don Blake. If Don Blake wants to go to DC and he wants to go to Batman and he wants to subscribe to Batman and he's going to choose his shipping. That was actually a great little thing to show you. That was both the terms and the shipping options, which you have to see. So I could subscribe to the main cover. I could subscribe to the B cover. And I can also say fulfill with main cover. So if I always want to get one of each, I would subscribe to main and I would subscribe to B. And then you're good to go. Now he's going to get both A and B here. And I see that I'm subscribed to the A's and the B's. What's also cool is you're seeing first pull will be as of Batman 120 because 118 had a final order cutoff of the 7th of November, and 119 has a final order cutoff of the 12th of this month. So I remember the version when it was nice. I remember the version when it was sub to A or B. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, now you can subscribe to both. We don't allow subscriptions to the 1 in variants. So you can't subscribe to like a 1 in 25 or a 1 in 50 right now. You would have to re-up those every month as they come out. This is our QA environment. So some of this data is a little wonky compared to what it looks like on prod. Still, I'm impressed that we've got covers and things in QA. We've never had that in Managed Comics Classic QA. It was always just a dog's breakfast of ugliness. So yeah, this is, I love this system so much. This week we added, and again, this is QA, so you're seeing a little bit of funkiness, but we added the ability for us to go in and upload the recent FOC and recent new releases, which gives us a lot better data on the new releases and FOCs. Julian asks, no possibility of changing FOC dates per store. I see a store isn't open the date of the FO. No, not right now. So that's an interesting question, and the reason we probably won't do that is that the FOC dates are kind of a shared thing. So what we could do is like say FOC plus or minus a day, but we can't let you change into. It's just a nightmare of data. The idea is we're trying to take as much data handling out of your hands as possible. It's literally going to be probably at least one, possibly two people's full-time job for us to handle the data. We've got a ton of scripts, but we're already running into a ton of stuff that has to get checked. So we'll definitely want to manage that and not have to have you guys updating that stuff all the time. Max says, is it possible to add an option for free shipping on a customer page? Right now, I've got to go in after the invoice is sent and check off free shipping and update the invoice. So that's a great question, Max. This should be, so it's been my understanding all along that the shipping preferences are handled on Shopify. So you should be able to set a customer's account to what kind of shipping they do. And if that's not working, then that would probably be a flaw in our system. So in your settings, and then so like your actual Shopify settings, there's options for like local pickup and an option for free shipping. And you should be able to set that there. And we should inherit that. I probably need to do some better documentation on that so I can explain a little bit better, but I have set it up on my example shop, and from what I know, it works. Max says, as far as I can tell, it's done on a per order basis. Okay, good to know. Yeah, I guess we'll take a look at that. I know we can override shipping because we've accidentally done it in the past, so I'm sure we can do it on purpose if we can do it by accident. So having a free shipping tier, very cool. We'll take a look at that. Well, that has been the Thoughtstream for the week. You guys know what we're working on for the next week. The next 2 weeks, I'm going to actually upload a video, and we'll do a video premiere of the next 2 weeks. And the first one I'm going to do is actually a really in-depth, kind of an in-depth onboarding. So how a store gets onboarded and what the first things are that they should do. I know we did something kind of last week with onboarding, but I feel like I've got a lot better of a handle on where people are falling down now. And so we're in the process of recording a new video. In that video, I'll also show what happens when you hit the snag of you're using a 2.0 theme, and if it's like kind of outside of what we expect the norm to be, you actually have to do a little bit of editing of the not of the code. You just select from a drop down of which thing is your login, which page is your page, and which page is your product page, and then we add the code from there. Yeah, I think that's that'll be a good one for next week. And then the following week, I would have to check. I know I had another one that I was going to record, and that'll basically be kind of a better overview. Adam asks, I think you talked about this in an email. If I have a customer who special orders an item and pays for that item, is there a way to mark the pull as complete without sending an invoice? So not right now, Adam, but that one story that we have would let you basically do that. You would kind of uncheck the thing. A better way to do that will be, we're going to have in the future kind of pre-ordered payments. And so if we're handling that through Managed Comics, we would know to bill all these people for this amount and bill this guy for, $0.00 or whatever it ends up being. If he puts on $4.99 on the comic and the comic ends up coming in at $5.99, he still owes $1. So we'll be building that in the future. That's one of our big things after our initial order stuff gets all kind of under control. That's my big goal for January, is revamping the entire initial order stuff. Julian says, oh, good for pre-order payments. Yeah, I think it's a hugely important thing, especially when you're dealing with things like 1 in 10s and 1 in 20s, and even Magic the Gathering and that kind of stuff that you can pre-order. Having some sort of deposit or some sort of thing that you're taking is definitely going to help to mitigate your risk and make sure people come in and pick up the things. So that's going to do it for this week, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, if you have any questions, hit us up at help@managedcomics.com. If you want to see our latest help documents, you go to help.managedcomics.com. All that stuff is available at managedcomics.com. And we will see you next week with the new onboarding video, which will be released at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. Pacific Time. I'll be online answering questions in chat, and then the following week I'll send out an email with what it is. I don't remember what it is. I know I've got something on plan for 2 weeks, and we'll go through that. And have a great holiday, everyone. and we will see you in the new year. Thanks, guys.